Cảm ơn Sison đã đồng hành cùng Have a Sip, là thương hiệu gọng kính đương đại đầu tiên tại Việt Nam với phương châm thiết kế tối giản. Sison tự hào với các sản phẩm được thiết kế tại Hà Nội. Xin chào mọi người đến với podcast Have a Sip uống gì không. Và cái sứ mệnh của Have a Sip từ trước đến nay thì vẫn luôn là trò chuyện với những tác giả sách. Và phải nói là một cái niềm vinh hạnh. Nếu 100 số trước đây mọi người nói rằng với Thùy Minh là đến một ngày mình sẽ có một trong những nhà văn nổi tiếng, gần như nổi tiếng nhất thế giới có mặt tại Việt Nam, tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh và trên Have a Sip thì mình sẽ không tin. Nhưng mà hôm nay ngồi trước mặt là nhà văn Mark Levy. Thank you so much for taking time doing Have a Sip.
Thank you for coming.
So Have a Sip would start with a drink.
Sure.
I guess for a writer, a drink is very important. No, we're not cheers like
No?
in the way of.
Okay.
You always do espresso.
Yes.
And how many cups per day?
5, 6. It's my favorite one.
So now it's like around 11 a.m. and right in the heart of Saigon.
Mm-hmm.
The third day of your trip.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And then we at Bason Cafe, so maybe surrounding with a little bit of noise, but I hope it doesn't interrupt our conversations. I chose the Café Sữa Đá, which is a signature of Saigon, because it's just a symbol.
Let me try.
Yeah. Is that your first Café Sữa Đá?
Yes.
Yes?
It's good. Very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the hot weather, now the weather is not too bad. So if espresso is your drink, and then the fact that you drink that much of coffee every day, if it says something about you, then what it say? What does it say?
I don't know. I don't know why I like the coffee. I think I'm always had. It's a smell of my childhood. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was used, to brew coffee in this Italian coffee maker, and so the smell of the coffee. I think it was the also, when you're a child, you're waiting the moment where you're going to be allowed to do some adult stuff. Coffee was the first, forbidden thing. When I was a teenager, I was not allowed at all to have alcohol because I had some epileptic seizure when I was a kid. So alcohol was really something I couldn't try, and it was quite frustrating because all my friends were into alcohol. So I think that coffee became my kind of, perversion.
Wait, is that writing is something that your family was really surprised at knowing you turned into a writer?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, my grandmother, she already passed away sadly. But yes, I think they were really surprised. Mm-hmm. Because they were encouraging, but I did it very secretly. I was not talking about it, to anyone. I show my first manuscript to my father when it was really completely finished, and after someone already said, it should be published. Then I gave it to my father.
Wait, and how he reacted to that?
Very kindly. It was quite weird for him because my father was a very high literary man, so he was very exigent. So his judgment, had all the reason to be very hard,
I believe so.
But right away he said to me, I do believe it can become a book also. And so, of course, he pushed me to do some rewriting, to correct some stuff. But he has always been extremely supportive. And when he was alive, he was really my first reader. It's funny in life because we're going to talk about that later, but there is all those things we never said, which we never say most of the time because saying I love you requires a lot of courage. Whether you say to your parents or to a woman you love, it's really you're exposing yourself, and there is all this shyness, at me. And my father and I, we loved each other very, very much, but we were very silent. I would say, we loved each other in silence. We could talk for hours, but never about ourselves. If I was asking him, how are you? He was saying, good, good, good. And you? And I was saying, good, good, good. when I was finishing a book, I was spending like almost 5 or 6 days with him, going line by line with his suggestion and correction. And I didn't care much about, what he was suggesting, but about how precious that moment was. I was going to spend 5 days with him, and we were going to work on that. And it was all kindness, he was really into it, if it was his own book. So it was quite a great moment, and probably why, when he died, I was missing, I really missed this moment. So that probably why I wrote Ghost in Love. Mm-hmm. So during the whole time of the writing, it was like he was sitting on my shoulder, looking at everything I was writing.
Wow, that's beautiful. But you start very different. You kind of, would you call yourself a late bloomer? Because your first book is like you're 37, is that right?
It's not late. I don't believe in anything like late. Mm-hmm. I would say that someone who writes a story at 20 is a young bloomer. The truth is that the more you live and the more you feel, the more you resent, mm-hmm. the more you experience, the more you have to write, which doesn't mean that you can't write at 15 or at 20. But I think that there is not really an age where you shall start playing piano, where you shall start dance. If you want to start dancing, at 60 years old, dance, and you might end up dancing much better than, at 20 years old, because it's not about the age, it's about the heart you put in it and how much you enjoy it and how much, love it gives you back. I strongly believe that in all case, whatever it is, it's a matter of work. Except for the genius. Those lucky bastards, but I've never been one and I will never be. So when you're not, it's just about working and working.
A lot of people look at time as a one line. That's why there's a young and then right time and then late. But that explains that you mess up a lot with time. You put someone who already dead appear again in somebody's life. It's like, is that why you ban all different definition of time in your book and your?
No, I don't believe in the linearity of time. I remember a joke that we were told when we were younger about the relativity of time, which is if you sit by a very, very hot day on a steel bench, 1 hour, is going to be extremely long, even like 5 minutes. But if you sit 5 minutes on a bench, with a beautiful girl on your side that you're really in love with, mm-hmm. 5 minutes are going to look like 5 seconds. I think that you become old when time becomes long. Mm-hmm. Because it's not about, the time, it's about the energy. And how much you put into this energy. And I don't like the society makes some classification, like you're in your 20s, like you're in your 30s, like you're in your 40s, which is absolutely stupid because I've never been 20 years old. For example, I didn't have time to be 20 years old. When I was 20 years old, I was working in the Red Cross and I was working in an emergency unit. I had no time to be 20. And I know some of my friends, at 30 years old, they were fully in their 20s. So what does it mean, So you can brag because, and I hate, this, I don't know how it is in Vietnam, but oh my God, in France and in the United States, it's so annoying. There is a kind of a posture by age. Like, if you're in your 20, you have to behave like you're in your 20. And if you're in your 50, you have to behave like you're in your 50. Why? Why? Honestly, if I want to start surfing at 65, who shall, forbid me to do that? And if I want, to do a retreat at 20, because I need to find myself, who shall shall tell you you're too young to do that? I don't believe in too young or too old at all.
Well, I start believe so. Now I'm turned to 39 and I feel younger than ever.
Yeah.
I changed my marriage status, and I feel like I start my new life again. So I guess it's no such a deadline. It's no such a
No, and I believe the big difference is that when I was a kid, our parents most of them had one life. One job, one marriage. Okay. I mean, it's almost impossible nowadays. 20 years old woman or a 20-year-old man will probably have 4, 5, or 6 jobs in his life. I mean, some have a career because they are doctors, and even in my generation, some friends were doctors and they couldn't make a living by being doctors, so they turn up working in other fields. But I would say if you do not work, if you do not have a vocation, you might have, and I'm not talking about your sentimental life because, but I mean, yes, you have several lives, and you can feel extremely old at 40 years old, and you can feel extremely young at 70. Who cares?
But then then we can see your advantage, which is you write books. So many books. Is that every time you're living a different life in there?
Of course. It's the main purpose. It's a kind of a revenge of when I was in school. Because when I was in school, my teacher blamed me for dreaming all the time. It was one of the most common comment that was on my resume every trimester. Such a dreamer. Maybe it would be great if he could be in class when he is in class. And of course, I was punished for that, and now I make a living out of it. You see? So no, I mean it's a big privilege because in fact, every book is a reason to learn about a different field of work, a different life, a different universe. In sometimes you travel in time. When I wrote The Strange Journey of Mr. Daldry, I had to learn a lot about the world of perfume and how you were making perfume, but also about Istanbul in the 50s. And so I literally, for 3 months, I was living in the 50s. I was having this old car. I was in Istanbul in the 50s, and it was like amazing. And then you wrote. There is 2 of my book which have not been apparently they have not been published and translated in Vietnam, which are The First Day and The First Night. And I mean, she's an archaeologist and he's an astrophysician. And it was so, I mean, I had to work with archaeologists and I had to learn from astrophysicians. And it was an amazing journey. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. Somehow it's like, the actors when they have to endorse a character, but except that the actors have to be the character. The writer, he's around them, but you don't have to. So you really, I mean, you live what they experience, but like you are in their universe. You don't have to carry on all the weight.
How you decide to live a character life? Like, you have a checklist that all the...
No, they do. They decide. I'm going to be frank. It's really, really hard to get a real answer about that. It's a question that I've shared with many of my writers' friends. How a character becomes alive in a book. So let's say you have an identify one, which is when characters are based from character that really existed in your life. For example, when I wrote Ghost in Love, the character of the father was completely inspired by mine. I mean, he was very different, but he was inspired. So I know where these characters came from. But he was not a copycat of my father. He had a different life. He had a different purpose. But I would say his humor, his way of thinking, his way of tricking you, his way of playing with words, and his little smile, that was him. That's how he came. Now, for all the other characters, I think that the small light that give them life comes from little lights inside of you. Some that you are not aware of. Mm-hmm. Some people, spend a lot of time introspecting themselves. Me, I never. I was much too much interested by others to be interested by myself. But still, I believe that, they come from those little scars that we all have. And there is this very common sentence that says it's through the scar that the light goes in and out of a body. So they come from that. In which process, how, it's really hard to explain, how it comes to. The thing with those characters is that you become them, they become you. And most of the time, it's much more important to listen to them than trying to become them. The most important thing is to try to know them as if they were so close to you that they become a part of you and not the contrary. That, that they are you. I mean, if they are you, it's become very selfish. It's all about you. They have to be characters like in real life. At one time, you meet someone and this someone is going to become a friend or a mentor or someone that you admire or that you hate or despise or that you're fascinated or that you want to be seduced or just that you want to be nearby. And you have to recreate this interaction when you write with the character. So you have to be curious. One of the most hypocrite questions nowadays is, how are you? Nobody listens to the answer. So with a book character, when you ask how are you, you have to listen to the answer, really. And you have to care about the answer. And then you can start writing. Me, for example, when I start with a character, I try to imagine what he or she does when she awakes, or he awakes. And this very, very precise moment of the day where we are still weak. We are full of energy, but not still aware of it, because we are in this world between two worlds. The world of the night and the world of the day, the world of the dream and the world of actions. And there is this very short moment when you wake up, where you are between those words, and you have, this weakness and this strength, and you're not hungry, but you are going to be hungry in 5 minutes. You understand what I mean? It's a very precious moment. I mean, if you have the luck to be in couple, do not miss this moment. Look at each other at this very particular moment. It's a very, very precious one. There is no makeup at that time of the day.
So
Yeah, but that's when the real beauty comes, And so I try to understand my character at this very moment of the day, how are they? Because that's, like a small open window on who they really are. And from that, you start writing.
Then I'm going to move you to the end of the journey. When you said that because you have such a attachment with your character, it's always sad for you to live them. Do you know when the breakup happened?
Yeah.
And it's from both sides?
It's not a breakup. It's a let go. Mm-hmm. It's very different. At one time, you are going to leave your parents and mother's home. You're not going to stop to love them, and they're not going to stop to love you. But there is a moment you have to. You have to fly with your own wings. In friendship, you spend, the most 1 week, 2 weeks with your best friend. And there is a moment where, you have to let go. You have to go back to each other, to your life. And then you hope that you'll meet again and you'll have a lot of things to tell you. And I think sometimes it's always true in love. And that the real way of loving someone is when you know that you have to let go is to let go. You realize that, the happiness of the other is not anymore with you. You have to let go. And it's okay. It's okay to have those little moments of weakness that are going to repeat themselves through the life. And in fact, one of the most heartwarming and touching thing about life is how you're going to go through this, moment of weakness, moment of failure, to let go. So it's the same with a character in a book. There is a moment where, you had this extreme, wonderful privilege of, spending 3-4 months of your life with them. And they came from some, unknown world, and they were like given to you as a writer as a gift. and you have to let go. You have to tell them goodbye. Sometimes you cheat and you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make book 2 with you guys because I can't let you go.
I was about to say that you do have a sequence. It's like.
But sometimes you can't because you know that the story ends. I mean, my favorite character, the character in all my 24th book that I was the most attached to, I had to let him go. And I had to let her go. And I know there can't be a sequel because the story has been told. But I think I wrote that in one of the book where one of the character, lose the one, the woman he loved, and he say, losing you is terrible, but there is something worse that could have happened, which would have not having the chance to meet you. And so it's the same with the book characters.
Wow, I never heard anyone describe this writing process this beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
But then I wanted to know, because you are the dreamer, and you spend that much of time with your characters in their lives, how you live your own life.
When people ask me, how can I become a writer? And what is it? It's something you can ask to. Before I go on, I want to say, there is no reason to mystify writing. A writer is not more important than a nurse, or the man, who built this table, because or the chair. Without him, we couldn't sit and talk. So every job is very important. And I believe that you can ask to anyone. I could ask you in your, in your field of work, what is it? What is the most rewarding thing when you do your job, and what is the hardest thing when you do your job? If you write, if you become a writer, you have to accept loneliness. This is probably one of the most difficult part of the journey. There is 2 reasons for that. The first thing is that, of course, once again, some writers, they write about themselves. And so they are going to feel less lonely. But if your center of interest is the others and not yourself, as we said, you write about characters. So you are into their life, but they are fictional characters. So they can't be into your life. Literally, it's like, you spend months, conversing with someone, but in only one direction. Of course, this one direction, takes a lot of yourself. But it's still a monologue. The big difference between a writer, a painter, a musician. A musician, when you compose, it's very easy. You turn up to one of your friends and you say, come, I'll show you. And then you play, it's 30 seconds and you share. When you're a painter, you do the same, come in my workshop, and look. So what do you think? Sculpture, cook, whatever you do. Writing, you can't, because it takes a lot of time. You cannot ask, to one of your friends, oh, would you mind reading my 50 page and tell me, it's very intrusive. So I would say this is the hardest part, of the work, that you have to be, but it's, the great thing about writing is that you work by yourself, and the worst thing about writing is that you work by yourself.
At the beginning of your writing, even you explain your fame by saying that it's luck. Now you still think it's luck that you get this?
It's luck and work. Let's not talk about myself. Let's talk about the pianist, the concertist, okay? And the guy does, a long and nice career. He had some luck at the beginning. He had some luck because he was allowed to play piano. He had some luck because he was allowed to find a piano, and he was allowed to have someone who teach him piano. And he had some luck because, he could have lived or be born in a place where it would be forbidden to play piano. He had luck because at one time in his life, someone came into the room and said, I like what you play. And he was encouraged. He had some luck because he was gifted for piano. That's a big luck. For example, I would have loved to be a singer. But I had no luck. I was not gifted to be a singer. You understand what I mean? And I would have loved to be a mathematician, but I was so bad at math. It was a language that was absolutely impenetrable for me. So I wasn't, I had no luck. So it is part of luck, that at one time you find what you really want to do, and then it's not enough. There is something very treacherous with writing. I mean, we all write. We don't all, play piano, or we don't all play guitar. So if I grab a guitar because I want to become a guitarist, I don't know what to do with it. So I realize right away that if I want to play guitar, I have to learn and I have to work. The first thing when I take a guitar, if I'm taking a guitar lesson, is not to ask to my teacher, when do I do a concert? Because the teacher is going to laugh and he say, why don't you try first, to put a note? But writing is different because we learn how to write at school. So we all believe that it's very instinctual. And I'm always surprised by how many people come to me and ask me about writing. They ask me about publishing. And I ask them, have you write already? And no, but I'm thinking about writing. So you haven't write and you're always thinking about publishing. It's the same that if you wanted to tell me, I'm learning piano, when can I do a concert at Carnegie Hall? Work first. So yes, it is a lot of work. And writing is rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. It is a novel. It's thousands of hours of work and real work. So it is work.
What's the most struggle you with writing?
The most struggle, loneliness, probably. Mm-hmm. As I said earlier, I don't want to repeat myself. It's not the loneliest just because you are alone when you work and you are spending, months as alone. It's because you are really alone in your work. It's not, when you're a musician, most of the time you work with a band. To do this interview, you are surrounded by a crew. Most of the jobs, there is very, very few jobs where you are absolutely alone in your workshop. Most of the job, are teams works. And even if you are, at the head of the team, there is a team. When I was speaking about the concertist, the pianist, there is a whole, most of the time, there is a whole a team of musicians around him, and a conductor, painter, sculptor, and writer. We are really, 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 by ourselves. And you don't know what you do until it's done. You understand what I mean? So that's probably the struggling part of the job.
I have a feeling nowadays, when you mention that there's someone will come to you and thinking about writing, but then ask about publishing first. I have a feeling I don't know, maybe young writers, they born in the era of they think about their book cover before the topic to write. When someone like you travel from different time of. Do you feel that affect you at all? That there's all no social platforms, or is that changed the way you write, or the way you? No, not at all.
No. The beauty of writing is that what you write on might change, but the process of storytelling has never changed since the dawn of time, and I believe until the end of time. It's funny, when I started to write, it was it was the early age of writing a novel on a computer. And so we worked faster than, when you were typing on the typewriter, just because, erasing a word was faster and, correcting was faster, and reading was, reading and printing was faster. You could print several pages, do the correction, type it again and reprint it. It changed, the speed of writing somehow, but it didn't change, the content of the story. I think that nowadays there is something that is going to prevent people to write, which is the fact that we are all, people are exposing themselves a lot on social media. Think about your feeling and emotions as seeds, okay? If you let your seeds mature a little bit, and if you care about how you're going to plant them, you're going to have a garden. But if every day you take your seeds, and you drop them like this all the time, you're never going to get a garden. And that's, for me, the way I see, how people behave with social media. There is this, exposure, the fact that you want to have a public right away and you want to share all the time, which is great in a lot of area. It's fun. I feel that the consequence is that, it's going to dry your well of writing, because you have to mature it before it goes out. You have to think, you have to keep it a little bit for yourself.
Do you prefer your reader read on a book that got print, or you don't mind?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You can you can write a book on the shirt if you want. Doesn't matter. No, really. I read on both. When I travel to Vietnam, I'm so happy that I can have 6 books in my reader, and I couldn't carry them on my luggage. So it's fine. I prefer to read on paper. There is something sensual. There is something, you have a sense of more, of time when you turn a page. But I'm so happy that I can read, on a digital reader when I can. Mm-hmm. So it's great. I don't care. I really don't care.
Do you see the difference between generations of your readers? Because the fact is you work in this field for so long.
No.
Do they change?
I think we pretend we change, but we don't.
Why do you think so?
Because I think that, each generation has, its own code, dressing code, vocabulary code, but the soul doesn't change. Mm-hmm. The human nature about, loving, being loved and loving, about, what scares us and what our strengths are. I don't see a lot of change. Yeah, I see. There is something particular to the generation of, the iPhone. Most of the people are there, and they are not there. Yesterday I was, in a theater room, and I could see like 60 people. They were in a theater room, and they were looking at their phone. And when they look at the concert, they look at they are in front, of the singer, but still they have to go with the, recording, and they are more preoccupied about posting on the social media that they are at the concert than enjoying the concert. And soon, maybe they are going to film, their lover, to say, look, I'm watching you. I hope that, at one time, there will be a kind of, how do you say, when you drink too much at night and you wake up on the next day, there is an expression.
Hangover?
Yeah. I really hope that there will be a hangover about that, and that, especially the young, they will come back in their life. I'm just worried that for that generation, that in 20 years, they might realize that they have seen the world and experienced a lot of their life through the prism of a phone. There is something absurd, when you are somewhere and in all the things you do is, with your camera and not with your own eyes. It's like, I don't know, but once again, it's just my opinion. But otherwise, I don't think we changed that much from one generation to a Yes, every generation is wiser and faster and more intelligent than the other one, but then the older one brings a kind, of wisdom and sense of wisdom. I think it's all very complementary.
Mm-hmm. I do believe that is a loop.
Yeah.
It's like maybe there's hangover, there's a time, because I believe a lot of my audience watching this on an iPhone.
No, but once again, it's not the media. When I was young, TV was TV was.
I'm from TV time as well. Yeah.
TV was very new, and our parents were when we were watching TV. Our parents were saying, "You are going to become stupid by watching TV," which was not true, because we learned from TV and from great programming a lot of things about nature, about the world, about culture, and TV. Because of course you could watch stupid thing on TV. But when you were watching TV, you were sitting in front of TV. And once again, watching something on your iPhone or watching on the TV, it's exactly the same thing than reading a book like a real book or reading. What I'm talking about with the iPhone is or whatever brand it is, with the smartphone, you are having you are sitting. How many times in the town you see people sitting at the same table, or you enter into a coffee shop and everybody's in their smartphone, and you wonder, oh my God, imagine that the Wi-Fi just shut down for 1 minute and everybody would start to talk together. It's not what you read or what you watch on the smartphones, it's when and how you use it.
No, I do get you, especially if I have 2 young kids, and then they entering the world that I kind of preventing them from using too much of screen time. But then again, it's about, okay, what kind of tool, like you use it as a tool, not you use it as it is to consume what in there. But we talk a lot about a platform. I want to move us to art form. The fact that your book, more than 400 pages, turned into a play that played in the theater that I got a chance to see the very first night at the Opera House. I love the fact that the first premiere time it's at the Opera House because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I know you do short films and TV series on TV. How you see your book, your work, transform in different art form?
It's another gift because finally those fictional characters becomes incarnated, and that's really cool. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. It's funny because particularly interesting about the process of writing. In how universal are characters and what transcend them. The day before yesterday, I was in the same room with you, and so the curtain opens, and there is Vietnamese actors, interpreting my characters. And so if I was telling you yes, when I wrote the character of Julia and I thought they were Vietnamese, you would know that I was lying. In fact, I never thought about whether they were French, Canadian, Italian, German, Spanish, that's, But, of course, when they appear on stage, as Vietnamese characters, they should not look like my characters. The almost incredible thing is that it is something I never noticed during the play. The woman that interpreted Julia is so good that she was Julia. I was really looking at Julia. Do not take this the wrong way, but she was my Julia. You understand?
Yeah.
I knew her, and it's funny because at the end of the theater, when the curtain came down, I went to see her, and to say, oh, it was wonderful, and I had this kind, of proximity with her, like if I knew her very well, and I know that she was looking at me like, we don't know each other. And it was the same for Julia's father. I was thanking him and saying, oh, you're great. And I went to every member of the troupe, like I knew them very, very well, and they didn't know me, which brings me back to, that part of loneliness in writing is that you know very well your characters, but they don't know you. Yeah, it is.
Oh, now they do.
No, they don't because, but it's funny. No, because they are playing those characters, but it was really, really great to see that. Mm-hmm. And it's also there is something very delicate when you, in every adaptation, you remember we talked earlier about letting go. You have to let go. You have to let the director tell your story its way, her way or his way. And when it's a movie adaptation, you have to let go. It's really, if you don't, it's never going to happen. And things are different, but you have to let go.
I got a chance to talk to the director, Việt Linh, about how she started writing you. She just loved that book in particular, and then decided to write to you. And then never actually expect that you you will write back, and then actually got a automatic email first saying that you might reply her in 2 weeks. How do you remember how is your feeling when you get a?
No, she got an automated email saying that I will answer her
And
in all case, but depending if I was traveling or not, it might take 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's a way I have this. With the email now, people are expecting that you're going to answer the same day.
Yeah.
I mean, before you were writing a letter, the letter had to travel, and then you waited. Now, so to prevent people, to send you an email the next day asking you, have you received my email that I sent yesterday? I'm just, have this automatic saying, I got your email, I will answer you. Might take a few days, but so when I got Viet Linh email, I was very touched that, she wanted to adapt. So she asked me if she could do it, and I said, of course you can do it if you want. Why not?
Did you expect to actually travel to Vietnam? You've been to Vietnam in 2000, right? It's like...
No, 2008.
Okay.
14 years ago.
What made you decide that you're going to just go to Vietnam for this?
I don't know. I think I felt it was very important for her. She invested a lot of herself. And she sent me some pictures of the rehearsal. And I could see right away in the picture that she put all her soul, in this adaptation. And so it felt natural for me, to come and to give her my respect and to thank her for doing this job. That's it.
I asked this from the beginning, but I want to repeat here. How you feel being in Vietnam?
Oh, I love it.
Is that a common for French people love Vietnam?
No, it's funny. I think there is some. It's like in the relationship with characters, you can't explain everything. At least I can't. For a reason I wouldn't be able to explain. There is some culture where you have, immediate connection with. And some it's harder. And it's not a generality. I think maybe it's for each of us too. So I've had the chance to travel a lot. And there is some country where you land and it's hard. You remember the amazing Lost in Translation, and you are really lost in translation. And there is some other country where the connection is right away. You feel, you feel well. I mean, the first time I went to Vietnam, I had that right away. I say, oh my God, I love it here. And it was in 2008. The first time I came to Vietnam, I had no idea that, my books were popular in Vietnam. But really no idea at all. Nobody told me. And I remember I landed in Hanoi, and I was staying at the hotel in Hanoi. And there were some people waiting for me at the airport, with a display and flower. And I thought, wow, my publisher really, did a lot of work. It's amazing, Anyway, and I am at the hotel. And the first day, I wake up and I wanted to go and buy some cigarettes. So I has a concierge, where, and he said, cross the street and you'll see a vendor here and you can buy cigarettes. And I step out of the hotel and I start to walk in the street, and there is one young man in a motorcycle, and he stopped like this, and he look at me and he say my name, and he said, can I have an autograph? And I look at him and I say, sure, okay. And on my way back, the same thing repeat, and it's a young woman and she stopped and she said, can I have an autograph? And so I went back to the hotel and I say, okay, this is a joke. This is like a candid camera set up by my friends, and because it's impossible. I told to my partner, okay, I think we are on candid camera, so we have to play very, and that's only later on that, I found my book in bookstores. I loved Hanoi, and the Temple of Reading was something I never forgot. I really loved being there. Ho Chi Minh looks really, it's very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different, but it's extremely vibrant and it's full of energy, full of young people, and I like it very, very much.
Well, like your books got translated into like 49 languages? Is that
Yeah.
got a right update?
They're 50.
of 50C. Your website, it's like the last update is 2018 or something.
Yeah, I know.
Your Instagram is more updated.
Yeah, I know.
So 50 languages. I think you're kind of responsible for young generations of that 50 countries growing up with your books. Have you ever see it that way?
No. No, I never realized that. When you're a singer, you got on stage and there is 20,000 or there is 2,000 people, singing with you and lightning lighters and I think so you have a kind of awareness of the process of your work. When you write, you can't follow a reader into their apartment, and hide behind the sofa and watch their reaction. You do not realize. You realize when suddenly, like yesterday, I was, in this theater room at the university, and there were like, 1,600 people in the room, and suddenly they welcome you, and I mean, honestly, at the very beginning, it's like you think it's a candid camera. You say, okay. But 2 days ago, a young Vietnamese woman gave me a letter, and I'm so sad because she didn't left an email address to answer her, and it was really rewarding. I was very moved because she said that she started reading me when she was 10 and she was 25, and that she had been like with my characters for 15 years. I think it's my work is very humble. Writing is not, but I mean the idea that for some evening my characters was a little part of her life, it's really rewarding. We had the chance to meet like 2 minutes, but it's okay. It's just that is rewarding. She loved those characters and she kept a little place in her heart for those characters. That is really rewarding.
I really hope that make up a little bit for your loneliness.
No, but you understand what I mean. I was not trying to complain, but you asked me, what is the struggling part? I'm just trying to share that because it's something that when I talk with other writers, they talk about it too.
Yeah, I understand that.
And it's a particularity of the job, but it has great aspect too,
But imagine that you're writing something, you put so much heart on it, and somebody don't recognize it. So I guess, and people
it's
recognize
harder.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, I can't complain at all.
Yeah.
Of course. No, it is. But it's the fact. Well, then I would say, still go on. It's not, it doesn't have to be immediate. It's not about, whether or not people recognize. It's, about how you feel when you're done. And it's not about being perfect. It's about having given the best of what you could give at that very time. That's also the process, of acquiring your keys to do your job. Mm-hmm. Look at the very, very first stage of a singer. He does not perform well, and he might not be recognized by the audience. But if he goes on, he will get there. And when he gets there, he will feel rewarded, because that will be an achievement.
I think it's quite cliche question to ask, but do you know if there will be a day you stop writing?
Well, there is 2 options for that. One is because you passed away. That's obvious. And the other one is because you don't have anything to say anymore. For both dates, you have no idea when it will come. Past dying, it will come. And not having any more story to tell can arrive before you die, or you die before you have no more thing to tell. So the latter is the better. If you regenerate yourself, there is no reason, that you lose this the pleasure you have of telling story. It's not like when you're in sports, there is one time where you can't catch up. Even nowadays you still can, very, very late, very, very late. But you understand. So it's all, about, maintaining the machine.
Yeah, I do hope the machine work.
Me too.
Well, and as long as I got one last question.
Okay.
If tomorrow you have to go to an island
Yep.
and you don't know when you can get back,
Yeah.
if you have to bring only one book, what could that be?
A person.
Person. And who is that?
Someone, another human being. I know it's a question, very, very much asked. Bring a person, not a book. Believe me. I mean, it's great, to bring a book or music or whatever you want. But if you bring another human being, you won't be alone on the island. And so then you are going to be able to rebuild the world. So if you ask me, I will bring a person. Who? I don't know, because I know, I didn't thought about going to the island tomorrow morning. At least, someone willing to go with you on the island.
I see a little bit conflict. Writing process for you is need a lot of alone time.
Conflict, I mean, it's not conflict, it's contradiction. But it's the most desirable and exciting and sexiest thing in the world, contradiction.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is no contradiction, it's super boring. So, of course, that's what I told you earlier. I'm very frank with that. The absolute wonderful thing about writing is that you work alone. And the worst thing is that you work alone. That's a whole contradiction. But that's why, it's so sexy and exciting, and because it's challenging, so it's rewarding. If it was easy, if you had no pain at all by doing it, that would be super boring. It would be a lazy work. Working a book is much harder than, you think. It's 120 nights of work for me, where you work until 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, and you're absolutely tired and exhausted, and you can't go out, and you are stuck in your world. But it's super exciting. And it's not about, it's very important to make a difference between sharing a feeling and complaining about it. And me, I do not complain at all about that. I like this loneliness. I love it. And, it's also like being on an island. But me, if you ask me the question, because I spend my life with book, if I have to go on an island, I'll definitely not bring one. I'll bring a person.
If you have a wish list to do in Vietnam, and I feel like this time is very tight schedule for you.
Yeah, it is.
If there's a one thing that you wish to do while you're here, what could it be?
Oh, I would love to go, I would love to see the mountains. I would love to see the fields, and I would love to see the sea. Because that's when you have, looked at those three things that you can start to learn about a country really. Not, about the cities only. The cities are a tiny, tiny part of a country. So I would be extremely excited to visit the mountains and the fields and the sea, really.
That means we will see you again.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's absolutely something that absolutely. But not just in Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Oh, thank you very
through
much.
the years.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi Have a Sip. Xin chào. Hẹn gặp lại. Cảm ơn Sison đã đồng hành cùng Have a Sip, là thương hiệu gọng kính đương đại đầu tiên tại Việt Nam với phương châm thiết kế tối giản. Sison tự hào với các sản phẩm được thiết kế tại Hà Nội. Xin chào mọi người đến với podcast Have a Sip uống gì không. Và cái sứ mệnh của Have a Sip từ trước đến nay thì vẫn luôn là trò chuyện với những tác giả sách. Và phải nói là một cái niềm vinh hạnh. Nếu 100 số trước đây mọi người nói rằng với Thùy Minh là đến một ngày mình sẽ có một trong những nhà văn nổi tiếng, gần như nổi tiếng nhất thế giới có mặt tại Việt Nam, tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh và trên Have a Sip, thì mình sẽ không tin. Nhưng mà hôm nay ngồi trước mặt là nhà văn Mark Levy. Thank you so much for taking time doing Have a Sip.
Thank you for coming.
So Have a Sip would start with a drink.
Sure.
I guess for a writer, a dring is very important. No, we're not cheers like
no?
in the way of.
Okay.
Okay. You always do espresso.
Yes,
And how many cups per day?
5, 6. It's my favorite one.
So now it's like around 11 a.m. and right in the heart of Saigon. The third day of your trip.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And then we at Bason Cafe, so maybe surrounding with a little bit of noise, but I hope it doesn't interrupt our conversations. I chose the Café Sữa Đá, which is a signature of Saigon, because it's just a symbol.
Let me try.
Yeah. Is that your first Café Sữa Đá?
Yes,
Yes?
it's good. Very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the hot weather, right
Yeah,
now the
no, it's
weather
nice.
is not too bad. So if espresso is your drink, and then the fact that you drink that much of coffee every day, if it says something about you, then what it say? What does it say?
I don't know. I don't know why I like the coffee. I think I'm always had. It's a smell of my childhood. My grandmother was used, to brew coffee in this Italian coffee maker, and so the smell of the coffee. I think it was the also. When you're a child, you're waiting the moment where you're going to be allowed to do some adult stuff. Coffee was the first, forbidden thing. When I was a teenager, I was not allowed at all to have alcohol because I had some epileptic seizure when I was a kid. So alcohol was really something I couldn't try, and it was quite frustrating because all my friends were into alcohol. So I think that coffee became my kind of, perversion.
Wait, is that writing is something that your family was really surprised at knowing you turned into a writer?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, my grandmother, she already passed away sadly. But yes, I think they were really surprised.
Because
they were encouraging, but I did it very secretly. I was not talking about it, to anyone. I show my first manuscript to my father when it was really completely finished, and after someone already said, it should be published. Then I gave it to my father.
wait, how he react to that?
Very kindly. It was quite weird for him because my father was a very high literary man, so he was very exigent. So his judgment, had all the reason to be very hard,
I believe so.
But right away he said to me, I do believe it can become a book also. And so, of course, he pushed me to do some rewriting, to correct some stuff. But he has always been extremely supportive. And when he was alive, he was really my first reader. It's funny in life because we're going to talk about that later, but there is all those things we never said, which we never say most of the time because saying I love you requires a lot of courage. Whether you say, to your parents or to a woman you love, it's really you're exposing yourself, and there is all this shyness, at me. And my father and I, we loved each other very, very much, but we were very silent. I would say, we loved each other in silence. We could talk for hours, but never about ourselves. If I was asking him, how are you? He was saying, good, good, good. And you? And I was saying, good, good, good. When I was finishing a book, I was spending like almost 5 or 6 days with him, going line by line with his suggestion and correction. And I didn't care much about, what he was suggesting, but about how precious that moment was. I was going to spend 5 days with him and we were going to work on that. And it was all kindness, he was really into it, if it was his own book. So it was quite a great moment. And probably why, when he died, I was missing, I really missed this moment. So that probably why I wrote Ghost in Love. So during the whole time of the writing, it was like he was sitting on my shoulder, looking at everything I was writing.
Wow, that's beautiful. But you start very different. You kind of, would you call yourself a late bloomer? Because your first book is like you're 37, is that right?
It's not late. I don't believe in anything like late. I would say that someone who writes a story at 20 is a young bloomer. The truth is that the more you live and the more you feel, the more you resent, the more you experience, the more you have to write, which doesn't mean that you can't write at 15 or at 20. But I think that there is not really an age where you shall start playing piano, where you shall start dance. If you want to start dancing, at 60 years old, dance, and you might end up dancing much better than, at 20 years old, because it's not about the age, it's about the heart you put in it and how much you enjoy it and how much, love it gives you back. I strongly believe that in all case, whatever it is, it's a matter of work. How except for the genius. Those lucky bastards, but I've never been one and I will never be. So when you're not, it's just about working and working.
A lot of people look at time as a one line. That's why there's a young and then right time and then late. But that explains that you mess up a lot with time. You put someone who already dead appear again in somebody's life. It's like, is that why you ban all different definition of time in your